Hello, good morning, Harrah Church. Good morning, Jeff Craig. How you doing today? Thank you so much. Yes, happy Father's Day. Thank you guys so much. Did y'all get some sleep last night? No sleep. I see we're pretty light in our crowd today. I'm pretty sure I woke up to about 35 like lightning and thunder strikes and sounds. Yeah, I don't, like, Lord, like, I don't want any more rain right now. I'm sure a lot of us would agree. I just don't want any more rain. I woke up this morning, yeah, it is, it's summertime, right? We're supposed to be complaining that it's too hot outside. It's supposed to be like 98 degrees right now with like 75% humidity. It will. As soon as the sun comes out and stuff starts drying up, we'll be complaining again anyways. Like, can we just get a little bit of clouds, like partly cloudy? That's right. Prepare for what you prayed for. That's right, Jeff Craig. It is like when I stepped out back this morning, I couldn't believe it, like the water moving across the backside of my place. My pool was like 3 or 4 inches below level because I got to make another little repair on it. I walked out this morning and the pool is overflowing. I'm like, I didn't even know we had rain coming. So it is what it is, right? So you guys, my name is Ryan Nelson. I'm the lead disciple maker of student disciples here at Harrah Church. And if I can get through this without weeping, like, it'll be an absolute miracle, right? Because what the Lord is doing, like in our leaders' lives and our student disciples, has completely blown me away in the last week. And even getting to participate or be a part of student disciples has been an absolute blessing on my life. Like, the Lord continues to do great works in these kids, and we actually get to see it. We get to witness it. We get to participate with these kids, right? We get to walk with them and do the hard things. We get to gather with them and have all things in common, right? And so, just a little bit, I'm just going to touch a little bit on last week when Bray Haynes was teaching, right? Like, he brought it with all authority. Like, I got to hear bits and pieces of it because we're trying to prepare for camp. But like, what I got most out of it was signs and wonders. And so last week, like, Lord, the signs and wonders we got to witness last week, like, I was supposed to be working on this teach, right? And I couldn't. Like, I could not work on this teach because every time I'd sit down and I reflect, I'd start weeping. I went down to, or up to what they call a prayer garden. And I get to sit on this big rock, and they got 3 crosses. No, I'm sorry, it's 1 cross off to the side, and I get to overlook like this valley that's got a creek down the bottom and just surrounded by God's creation. And I'm sitting there trying to get through some of this teach, and I'm reflecting on some of the things we see at camp, and like, I'm weeping, right? And so, like, Michael Ferris told me, he goes, hey, like, when you're building a teach, you should go to the chapel, right? Just go inside, shut the doors, and go sit in this chapel. And I still couldn't work on this teach. Even at chapel, I was just weeping the whole time. And so later on, I go back up to the cabin where everybody else was. They're like, have you been crying? I'm like, no, I'm not crying. What are you talking about? I'm trying to get myself cleaned up a little bit. Also, while we were at camp, I was getting ready one morning, just trying to get myself cleaned up, get prepared for the day. Most of us got like 2 or 3 hours of sleep a night. Like, it's like, camp's rough. Like, you don't get no sleep. And like, we warned each other, but still we weren't prepared for the potential lack of sleep that we were going to get. But I woke up and I had more gray hairs here. I noticed it as I kind of prepared my beard. And I'm like, surely like this has been here for a while. I just haven't paid attention, And I walk out of the men's dorms and the guys' dorms. I walk out, and one of the first things somebody said to me is like, man, camp's hard on you, isn't it? Like, you're getting more gray hair. And I'm like, I know. I get it. Like it is what it is. But going back to this, like the signs and wonders, like Bray Haynes was talking about last week, like, man, what the Lord has done in my life has been like a sign and wonder, taking me from the mud, muck, and the mire and placing my feet on solid ground and blessing me with a child. Like, most of you know, like my wife's and my story, like, if you don't, come ask us. Like, come sit with us and come ask. And there's so many other pillars and stories around here, like communicate with one another. Like, I remember David Fry, right? Like, he's my neighbor. He lives to the west of me. Like, the only thing I knew, he was just kind of an angry guy. He didn't like me riding my four-wheeler at 1 o'clock in the morning. So he was an angry guy. But what I see the Lord doing and continue doing in David Fry's life is a sign and wonder. He plays everywhere around here. He plays in students. He works in kids ministry. He's been in the coffee bar. He's been on the greeting team. I'm pretty sure you've probably cut the grass here. I don't know what all you've done here. Clean, swept, mop. Yeah, great cook. I mean, David Fry is constantly all over the place. So watching this man go from brown to green is a sign and wonder. Bray Haynes, that brought the word with all authority last week, is an absolute sign and wonder. Like watching this guy preach the gospel with all authority. You ask him 5-10 years ago, there was not a chance. Like that wouldn't even been a thought in his mind. He goes from wanting to fight people all the time, being angry and aggressive, to battling demons today. He's ready. You got something you're walking through, he's ready to come alongside you. It doesn't matter what it is. I hear stories of Travis Evans. I didn't get to witness it. But like the things he went through, battling addiction, and he did it in an aggressive manner as he was coming to the Lord, right? It's like a sign and a wonder. Like he just put these things down and he fought through these hard things. And Travis, I don't know how long you've been clean and sober. I don't have a clue, but that is an absolute sign and wonder. How long's it been, Travis? How long? Come on, man. Come on. I don't care how small or how minor, like an addiction, it's hard. It's hard to break those habits. It's hard to break those chains. It's hard to break those generational curses, right? But with the Lord, all things are possible. So there's many other stories. There's many other signs and wonders. Like the kingdom is at hand. And so many times it's right in front of us. It's all around us. But like myself, I miss it sometimes because I got other things in front of me. I'm either playing on my cell phone or participating in other things. Like let's set our sights on what's above, right? There's signs and glories all around us all the time. So the word we're going to be in today is Acts chapter 2, verse 44. And as we're progressing through this kingdom wheel, it's like Michael Ferris has said, that he believes like this is a formula for a movement of Jesus Christ, right? Like this is a formula to go and do the next thing. So again, we're going to be in Acts chapter 2, verse 44. And you guys forgive me. I don't have any slides. I don't know what to do without slides, so I'm just going to try to go nice and slow. If you got any questions about anything or you didn't catch a verse, let me know. My wife was up last night trying to build a slideshow till 11 o'clock, midnight. We're going to have a slideshow towards the end of the teach. And I was just kind of still wrestling with this teach a little bit after that. So forgive me, I won't have slides. You got any questions, come find me afterwards, okay? So if you would, join me in prayer. Father God, I just thank you for this day, Lord. I thank you for the things you do in each and every one of our lives, Lord. Like it isn't absolutely your glory that I get to get up here and give the word away, Lord, just being a willing vessel through you. Like what I'm asking, Lord, is that you completely get me out of the way, Lord, and you speak through me, Lord. Just plain and simple, Lord. I'm asking that you speak through me today, Father. Let me not get in the way. Let me step aside and let your glory be known in this moment, Lord. Let your word be preached. Lord, I give you great thanks for the things we get to see each and every day, Lord. I thank you so much. Like one of the things we're praying is that we get to travel to camp, get there safely, Lord, and return back safely, Lord. And that's what happened, Lord. Lord, I just give you thanks for all the things you do in our lives, Lord. I give you great thanks for the signs and wonders, Lord. And I give you that you get to show each and every one of us, Lord. And I give you great thanks in this moment as we get ready to step into this word as a gathering with one another and having all things in common, Lord. Like in all things in common is simply you, Jesus. And I'm asking that today, Lord, we just receive the word on all things in common. And what it boils down is you, Lord, and being our Lord and Savior. Your holy name I give thanks and I pray. Amen. So Acts chapter 2, verse 44. Oops. And I will be reading out of the NIV version. If I can find my place. All the believers were together and had everything in common. And I'm looking at this word, I'm like, Lord, this is super simple. Like, there's not a whole lot to give away here. And so I wrestled with this most of Friday night and Saturday, yesterday, all day. And so all who believed were together and had all things in common. That word all is everyone, each piece making up a whole. It says all who believed. That word believed is those who have confidence. The ones who accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior and devoted themselves to Him. Believing that leads to God's inbirthing of faith. And I know we talk about this word faith, right? It's one of the things I would hear at camp, and some of these kids like, I struggle to have faith. And I'm sure it's not just with these kids. I'm sure it's with some of us as well, right? We struggle and wrestle with this word faith. But like here's the thing. Faith is not something you go to Walmart and buy, or faith is not something like David Fry can make a lot of stuff, but he can't make faith and just give it to you as a present, right? He can't wrap it up and say, here's your faith. Like faith is revelation from the Lord. The way I would spur these kids on when they were struggling with faith, right? It's like just simply get in His Word. Just start somewhere and watch the Lord start to do these things in you. Like there's nothing hard, nothing special. There's not fireworks. There's nothing crazy that happens. But you know, like when that moment, that birth is in, that faith is in birth in you, like the Holy Spirit, right? Just takes over. Sorry, let me speak slow so I don't stumble on all my words. I'm gonna take about a 6-hour nap today. Okay, I will recover from camp. What's that? In Jesus' name, that's right. And all who believed also is to entrust one special being to Christ. And all who believed were together. That word together is physically in spiritual unity. And they had all things in common. This word common is one that I really began to struggle with. Because the word common that we're looking at is shared by all, no lack, strong fellowship and unity among early Christians. This is how they shared their resources. They would share their possessions. They would share their possessions with each other and meeting the needs of everyone around them. Not only do they share like their physical resources, but their spiritual as well. So on this word, common, I struggle with this word common so much because the word that I know in common is talked about like common man, like defiled or simple or nothing special, right? But this word common is actually having all things in common. Like in this moment, as we all sit here and gather, we are gathered with one another and have all things in common. So what is it in this moment right now that each and every one of us have in common? Jesus. Okay, that's what it simply boils down to. I took this word and I tried to blow it up and really like makes it like a big deal about it, right? Don't get me wrong, Jesus is a big deal, but what I was doing in this moment is complicating things. So what we have in common is confidence in God, fellowship, communion, prayer. We worship with one another. We abide in Jesus because He is the center of all things. Okay? Jesus is a center of all things in our lives. Okay? Or that's what we are progressing towards, right? And truly, like with Jesus, there is no lack. There is no lack with Jesus Christ. Like even in those moments to where we come up short on a paycheck, like we never go without, right? And in those moments to where I haven't had a meal that day, like Jehovah Jireh, the Lord provides all things, physical and spiritual. Okay? And so in this, I'm going to let the word teach the word. Is that fair? Okay, I got a few scriptures. I'll try to go nice and slow. Like I said, we don't have slides. That is my fault. I wish I could blame it on somebody else, but I can't. So this word comes out of Acts chapter 4, verses 32 and 35. Starting in verse 32. Sorry, if I get up and start cooing and making noises at the baby, forgive me, okay? I've been trying to keep him entertained and keep him happy this morning. I'm easily distracted. Lord, not right now, please. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of Jesus, and God's grace was so powerfully at work in them that there was no needy person among them. For from time to time, those who owned land and houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone who had need. And so, like in this, like selling their possessions, and putting it at the apostles' feet and distributing it to anyone who had need. Like here at Harrah Church, we see the same thing happening, right? Like simply we see the same thing happening. It may look just a little bit different, but like the compassion team here at Harrah Church, like it comes out of the Harrah Church, right? Like the funding here at Harrah Church, it comes from the body, whatever we give and whatever we tithe. And so same thing in my life is whenever this new baby come into our lives, Matthew, like the body of Harrah Church did the same thing for us, right? To where Harrah Church, it was you guys that pretty much covered the adoption fees. Like nothing came out of pocket for us. Like Harrah Church saw a need and met it without even asking. And this is a prime example of gathering with one another and having all things in common. Like Harrah Church showed up. You guys, the body here, showed up and continue to blow our minds with what the Lord is doing in our lives, right? In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 through 11. As remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided to in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. It is written, they have freely scattered their gifts to the poor. Their righteousness endures forever. Now, who supplies the seed to the sower and the bread for food will also supply increase in your store of seed and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. And through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. And so like the Lord met me in this last night. Like at 11 o'clock or midnight, like this is when I start getting fired up, because I see in my life, like I struggle in this. Like there's times I'm reluctant to give, right? This is my obedience, and this is what the Lord's been pressing on me for quite some time, is we give maybe like right at 10%, okay? And that's a couple years ago we come up with that equation. Since I've gotten raises and things, like I have not increased that. I have not met that 10%. And so in this, like I'm reluctant to give as well. Like when there's a need in a certain part of the body or somebody's struggling with something, like I struggle with this. It's my obedience, right? And so what I was seeing, not only like the body here at church, gathering together, having all things in common and helping us along with this adoption finding in this adoption process, right? I see how people would willingly and joyfully give for our student disciples to go to camp. Like I saw this time and time again where somebody come up and say, here's a check for student disciples. Here's $100 or $200 for student disciples to sponsor these kids and send them to camp. Like they did it cheerfully. And they already made up their mind and in their heart like what they're going to give, and they gave cheerfully and willingly. And that's one thing, like church, let me tell you, I struggle with this. Like the Lord is still walking me through this now. Like I am not a greedy person, but still I struggle with this. It is my obedience to walk out. Okay, in Hebrews chapter 13, verses 15 and 16. Through Jesus, therefore, let us continually to offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess his name. And do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices God is pleased. And so sometimes like this sacrificing things from our lives can be a difficult thing. That's definitely something the Lord's walking me through right now. But I watched how so many people sacrificed so much for these kids to go to camp. Like Jehovah Jireh, like the body of Harrah Church provided for sure. And so, continuing in this word, gathered together and having all things in common. Most of you know we just got back from KBA camp. I see a lot of leaders that went to camp that are not here today, so I'm guessing they're still sleeping, okay? That's my goal. I've already told you today. I'm gonna try to get me a good long nap today. And so in this, like this week, trying to get to camp, like it was a struggle. Like it was hard. There's so many things that started to happen just straight out of the gate. We're already running a little bit behind schedule. We're trying to get the trailers loaded. We're trying to get these kids fed, trying to get some pizza, and just get everything moving. So I don't know, for y'all, when you have like 40 kids and you're trying to get them all to go in the same direction, it's like herding cats, right? Like it is not easy. And so I begin to get easily frustrated. I'm like, hey, like we need to leave right now. Like we need to keep a schedule. We need to get there by a specific time so we can get checked in and get everything downloaded in the cabins. Okay. Well, what happens next is we get about 4 or 5 miles away from the church, and like the worst possible thing happens is one of our vans broke down, and there's no fixing it in this moment. Like the van breaks down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm not going to camp. We're canceling camp. We're done. We're all going home. But in reality, like what I'm seeing in this moment is the enemy is already at work. The enemy is already moving. The enemy is already trying to slow us down. The enemy is already trying to stop us because there's great things about to happen. And I tell you, like while we're at camp, some pretty awesome things happen, which I'll get to in just a little bit. So our trip is already starting off with chaos and division. So when I walked out of the doors here, the first thing, I was like, everybody pause. We're gonna take off together, caravan with the vans, just in case something happens. I don't know what happened, but I walked out the doors here, and there's a couple of vans over there and a couple of cars over there, and everybody's leaving. And I'm like, we're already going different ways. I'm like, Jesus, like take the wheel, like guide us all to camp. Hopefully everybody knows which way we're going here. And so that falls back on me. As the overseer stud, that definitely falls back on me. I didn't cast enough vision, so no, I'm not casting any blame. I'm not casting stones. But the enemy is a creator of chaos, right? Like this morning when I first got here, there's things happening. Things aren't operating correctly, or the computers are having issues. Like there's already things happening. I'm like, Lord, this is going to be a really good morning if the enemy's already trying to get in the way of things, right? I don't know what all happened this morning, but I just know, like the enemy is a creator of chaos and attempts to divide one of us, right? He's here to kill, steal, and destroy. But I promise you one thing. Like watching the leadership we had this year go to KVA camp, I promise you one thing, like the enemy did not stand a chance. Like not even close. Like he attempted to get in the way, and as soon as like this van broke down, I'm over here like, well, we're defeated. Let's just go back to the church and I can go home and go sit in my pool and watch it rain and stuff or whatever I can do in my free time. But in reality, like the enemy didn't stand a chance. And so somebody made a phone call and said, get all the leaders, get all the vehicles back here in this exact spot. They dropped the pin. We got like 14 kids in a van. I'm over here like, well, let's call U-Haul and see if we can rent a box truck and we'll take the kids in a box truck or do something like this. But like watching my wife, Linnell, and Ashley Welch and some of these other leaders like come together in that moment. They gathered together in that moment. They had all things in common. I'm telling you, figured it out. I don't know how they become like mathematicians in that moment. They're like, okay, well, this person's they got one place we could put 3 kids over here. I was going to get a box truck and just haul them that way or try to find something else to rent. But they're like, no, we can figure this out. And sure, like we gathered together and they figured it out. They put all the kids back in vehicles. It was a minor setback and here we go. We're off to camp. So I watched, just like the word we're going over today, I watched these leaders put their full confidence in God and have all things in common in that moment. The things they had in common is attempting to get all these kids to camp and progress them towards Christ, right? Like watch these kids change their mind and believe in the good news. Like that's their mission. That's what they have in common in that moment. So for the leaders that are here, even if there's leaders at home that are just now waking up from their long nap, like if there is leaders that went to camp here today, will you guys please stand up? Like if you had gone to camp and you're a sponsor or a leader, would you guys please stand up? Man, these leaders take time away from their homes, take times away from their families. They take times away from their jobs. A couple of them were self-employed. To them, time is money, right? Like if they're not working, they're not making any money. Me, I got paid time off. I'll do anything to get away from my job for a while. But these leaders, they got their own home projects, they got their own families, they got their own things that they could be doing, right? But they made that choice to lay down their lives, have all things in common, share their materials, share their supplies, and everything they had to come together for these kids, right? And so leaders, thank you so much for everything you've done over this last week. I hope you're catching up on your sleep. I hope you're getting well rested and ready to do the next thing. But is it not the same in our walks? Like I was talking about, like the beginning of camp started off with chaos and division. And this morning, there's a little bit of chaos and things not working correctly or properly, or the things we think the way they should be going, right? But is it not the same with our walk with Jesus? The enemy attempts to slow you down and separate you from things of the kingdom. The enemy attempts to separate us from the flock. The enemy attempts to isolate you and get you into a vulnerable place. And I'm not talking about isolate you like when you actually need to go and sit with Jesus and have that one-on-one time and go up the mountain and have that prayer time, right? Like that's not the type of separation I'm talking about. Like this type of separation or isolation is like being by yourself and not a well place. Like the enemy will continue to come after you in some of these moments, right? Especially when he sees that we're down. Like in that moment, like when the van broke down, I become downcast, right? And I'm like, we're done here. I don't know what to do. And that's lies from the enemy is all it is. So the word the Lord gave me is 1 Peter 5, 8 through 9. Be alert and sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him. Stand firm in the faith because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. And so for me, when I say like, Lord, I'm having a bad day, or Lord, a vehicle broke down, or Lord, that's not mine. I got excited. He said his first word. It wasn't mine. But like the truth is like the enemy does prowl around like a roaring lion. Like you see, I don't know how many of you guys watch the animal channels and all the Discovery and stuff. I can't watch it because I feel bad for the animals. But what does that lion do? Like, what does the enemy do? Attempt to get you out by yourself and not a well place or a dangerous place, right? And then that's where we become most vulnerable to the lies and the attacks from the enemy. Separation and isolation is where we become vulnerable to our flesh and schemes of the enemy. But we, all who believe, continuing having all things in common, keeping our confidence in Jesus, will push back against any scheme of the enemy. And I mean, truthfully, like when we're beside one another, we have all things in common, or walking with one another. Like, it's a lot harder for the enemy to get through those lines, right? So at camp, everything we did this week, we were together, and we continued having all things in common. Next word I'm going to give you is Hebrews 10, verses 20 through 25. Let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and with full assurance that faith brings, having our hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience, and having our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. Let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And so this word meeting together means to gather together that fulfills a specific purpose and spurring one another on towards Jesus. So when we say we have all things in common, we all have one specific purpose, and that is Jesus, right? And so simply, what can the Lord do? Like, what the Lord can do as believers, that we put our full confidence in him, right? Together we are much stronger and less vulnerable to the ways of the world. Whether in small gatherings or joined together with thousands of others. And so while we're at camp, like, we were gathered together and had all things in common. Okay? Super simple. Whether it's prayer, worship, breakout sessions. But now, do we have that video? Is that video available? Can we go ahead and play that? You're more than welcome to watch this, laugh, whatever. There's so much that happened this week. Now I want to turn around and watch it, but I still got stuff to do here, so. Thank you. And so, we see these kids, right, gathering together and having all things in common, our students and leaders. And so, there was a part during camp, and it's called Rec Time. And it was really cool watching these kids do some of the hard things. They're overcoming tasks. They're encouraging one another, learning how to work better together and accomplish whatever task was at hand. Like, some of the things they had these kids doing were absolutely mind-boggling, right? To where they take a group of kids, give them all a string and a rubber band, and they'd have to work together to pick up this cup. And I'm like, that doesn't look possible at all. I'm not going to play because that looks really, really hard. But these kids would figure it out. Not only did they have to pick up a cup, they had to stack these cups up in a shape of a pyramid, and they'd have to run as a group and go get a cup and run all the way back. I mean, it looked extremely, extremely challenging. But in that moment, they were gathered together and had all things in common, right? So watching these kids do some of these tasks, there was one to where they had these 2x4s, and each kid would hold a 2x4. There'd be one on each side, and another student would get on top of this 2x4, and they would make steps as they went. So it'd be 6 or 8 2x4s, and the kids they'd start in the back, and as the child is walking, the rest of the students would run from the back into the front. I'm like, that looks extraordinarily challenging, and they're racing another team to get from one side and somehow get turned around and come back the other way. I'm like, I'm not playing that game either. Even though, like, I should be participating in these things. But watching these kids overcome these tasks, having all things in common, it just simply continued to blow my mind. I'm not playing that game either. But they play this game, and I think some of us should do some of these things as well, to where they've taken a piece of PVC, right? It is probably, maybe 18 inches long, and they put a ping pong ball on the end of it. So I'm standing back. I'm like, I'll do that one because that one's easy. So they stacked these tubes up against one another. They're not allowed to block the ends. They're not allowed to block the middle, but they had to move this ball from one end to the finish line, right? So as they put the ball in one end, they had to dump in the next person's tube and the next person's tube and the next person's tube. And then this individual in the back had to run all the way back to the front, right? And so watching these kids, like, it was very difficult. And these kids started kind of arguing with one another, started kind of a little bit of disunity maybe, but they figured it out how to have all things in common, right? And they actually accomplished the task at hand, and they won. I think like 3 groups in a row had won once they actually figured it out. They're communicating with one another. There's going to be one on there. It's a game called Java, Java, Can. Has anybody ever played that game before? Yeah, I played it one time, and never again will I play this game, Java, Java, Can, okay? Because everybody gets a rope in each hand, right? Everybody's holding on to an end of a rope. And then you got the next person, the one you're battling against, or, you know, in the beginning at least, they're holding on to the other end. They make this big circle, and they put this trash can in the middle. Everybody is pulling and tugging on these ropes. If you let go of the rope, you're out. If you touch the trash can, you're out. And so for me, I'm a little guy. I'm 5'7", I weigh 165 pounds. And there's a lot of kids at camp that is a lot bigger than me. We played a volleyball game against boys and girls, high school students, and all the boys and girls are bigger than Trey Lewis. Trey Lewis is a big guy, and I'm out here trying to play Java, Java, Can with, you know, people that are bigger than me. Not a chance. I did it a few years ago, but I'd never do it again. They also played this chair game, the one you saw on there, to where everybody leans back and they have to work in complete unity and oneness and hold one another up and support one another. Like if one little thing fails, like the entire thing fails, right? So you see these kids, how they come together in this moment, having all things in common. Rock climbing. I'm not good at rock climbing. I heard David's wonderful at rock climbing. If you ever go, I'll just come and watch you, okay? I get about 3 feet off the ground. But it's really cool watching these kids, how they start scaling up this wall, and their other teammates and leaders would cheer them on, right? There might be a picture on there. I think it's Ellie Scott. She climbed up this big old pole. It's like a utility pole with these handles on it. You climb to the top, and you got to jump off. You jump off the top of it. They got a rope and a little harness on you. Not a chance. And I guess the task in this is to jump off the very top of this pole and grab this flag. And it's really cool watching these kids cheer on their teammates. Even the zip lining, I think it's probably 30 or 40 feet off the ground. That's something I'm not going to do. I have no desire to climb up there. But as these kids would climb up the towers to get on top of the platform and switch harnesses and whatnot, get ready to jump off, like their peers are cheering one another on, right? But talking about all the fun things and all the tasks and all the unity and oneness and having all things in common with one another during these games and challenges, like where the meat and potatoes, I feel like I stole that from Jeff Craig. I probably stole it from Jeff Craig. The meat and potatoes for myself was every morning we'd go to Tabernacle, right? At Tabernacle, we would worship, we would pray, and simply sit under a teach. We're all gathered together and having all things in common, right? Like it was a challenge getting these kids up and get them fed breakfast. You had Jeff Craig, Haley Lewis, and David Fry in the kitchen. I mean, they can open up their own business. Like we ate good all week long, but they'd feed us and get us ready for. I get sidetracked super easy. I'm sorry. They'd feed us and they'd get us ready for Tabernacle, right? And send us out the door. But once again, it's like trying to get all these kids out of the front doors here and get in the vehicles. I mean, trying to get all these kids down to Tabernacle. I mean, it was a chore. But once we got them there, we were all gathered together and had all things in common. So after Tabernacle, they would gather into small groups to where we'd have probably 1 or 2 leaders and 5 or 6, maybe seven students. This was an opportunity for them to reflect on what they were learning, dig a little bit deeper into the word that we'd heard that day, share what the Lord was teaching us, and this made room for us to encourage and edify one another in these small breakout sessions. during the day, we'd have a little bit of downtime, right? And so these are the moments like I'm supposed to be working on this teach. I'm supposed to be putting these things together, right? I'm supposed to be like asking God to like download these things to me and show me what to teach today. And I would struggle to sit in this while we were at camp because during this little bit of downtime that we'd had, which normally isn't much, it might be about an hour and a half a day, that's when I got to see one-on-one breakthrough with some of these kids, to where I would see one-on-one, to where these kids would come to you one-on-one with questions or confessing sin. And so one of the things, like I would see in this, like, man, like in this moment, like these kids, these one-on-one conversations I'm having, they don't have all things in common. Like I think that's a fair statement. But what are we doing here? The ones in these leaders that were gathered together having all things in common, like that's what they're fighting for, right? It's for these kids and these students to come along with us and to have all things in common, right? And so I won't say any student name because I don't see them in here in the moment. But I have one young man we've been working on for years. We've been to camp for 3 or 4 years in a row now. And this is the first year we'd actually seen the kingdom breaking through in his life after having a one-on-one conversation. It was actually after Tabernacle one night, right? And so watching the Lord break through in this young man's life, like was totally, like blew me away. I'm like, Lord, like it's your divine appointment. This is your timing, Father, that we get to actually witness what you're doing in this young man's life. Like we have begged and fought for his freedom, right? And so, man, what the Lord's doing in that moment, like it is good. And so as he progresses to have all things in common with fellow believers, he began to like actually listen. When we told him to do something, we asked him to clean or asked him to do things, he was all hands-on. He participated in the games. Him and another young man became best buddies throughout the week. Like watching the kingdom break through in his life completely blew me away. I had another young man come to me. Again, I won't say any names, but he came and confessed. He says, I don't truly believe. And so what I'm seeing in this, he doesn't have all things in common. It's a hard thing for him to go sit there to teach in a tabernacle. It's a hard thing to do these things if you do not believe, right? And so he comes to me and he's like, hey, I am struggling to believe. I don't actually believe. And so having that one-on-one conversation with him, he's like, what do I need to do? How do I believe? And we know that the believing leads to faith, right? And it's nothing I can hand to him. If faith is not something we can just pass off to somebody else. It's a gift from the Lord, right? And so I challenged him, like in that moment, just abide. That is it. Like continue, like, yes, let's have these conversations, but we have to open up and look at the word, right? And so that was a challenge for him, is to like open up the word, see what the Lord is speaking to him, right? And we'll have that conversation again later. And there was many other times you'd see the kingdom breaking through in these kids' lives, right? There was a evening tabernacle. Was one of my favorite moments as well because, I mean, we'd praise and worship. These kids would get all fired up. And they would ask, after the teach, they would ask all the leaders to come up to the front, right? And so all the leaders were standing off to one side and another. It's one of my favorite moments. First night, David Fry paid a kid $1 to come up there and hang out with me. So all the camp pranks actually started with David Fry. Thank you for that. Did you pay him his $1? Did not? He didn't even get his $1 yet? He could have bought a snow cone with that. But what I saw in that moment, like when I'm standing at the front, and I told Kayla Fry this, like I'm standing up front, I'm watching all these kids in praise and in worship. We're all gathered together, having all things in common. It blew me away. So I told Kayla Fry, I was like, this is what you get to see when people are praising and worshiping. I'm like, that is awesome. That's where it's at. I'm like, put me on the worship team. She's like, yeah, we'll put you on the worship team, but we're going to turn your mic off. I'm like, that's fair. I might start coming and standing up here and just watching you guys, man, after we get after the Lord, right? And so that was like in that moment watching these kids like bursting open as the Lord makes a breakthrough in their lives. Like you see them go from being just a simple individual and having nothing to do with the kingdom. We watch the Lord like bursting through in their lives to where they like now they want to gather together and now having all things in common with fellow believers. Like it just like whenever I tell you I went to chapel and I went to the prayer garden and I wept, and I'm talking like ugly cry. I was completely out of control. I had to go by myself. I don't want David to make fun of me. David's up here pretty soon. I'm pretty sure I'll be his next target. I'm sorry. I don't want Trey Lewis to make fun of me. How about that? Is that better? And so watching these things happen at camp, like these kids completely like bursting open, like coming to the front, not only just like our kids and our students, but watching out of these 1,200 that are gathered together, right, with other believers. Man, it was like they'd come to the front and then their arms are open, their heads are down, and they are bawling as the Lord makes a breakthrough in their lives, right? And several times, us leaders, as we go to the front, we had many, many students come to the front and ask us just to simply pray over them, put hands on them where they can have something to confess or something they're struggling with. And so watching the breakthrough in these kids' lives as they continue to progress towards other believers. And so when it comes to like gathering together, like how important it is to gather with one another and to simply have all things in common, right? And so we took our kids to Winter Jam back in March, I believe. So we took all of our children to Winter Jam, where there was thousands and thousands of people. I wouldn't say the stadium, the Paycom Center was completely full, but most of it was pretty packed out. I mean, it's talking about like all coming together, right? Gathering with other believers and watching these thousands and thousands of people. I don't know how many, like the Paycom Center holds like 15,000 people. Am I way off? Or am I just throwing a random guess out there? I don't know what it is. But watching thousands of people get after Jesus, to have like all these believers come together and having all things in common in that moment. Here at Harrah Church, there's times we have 100. There's times we have a couple hundred people in this place, right? We all gather together and having all things in common. And I want to be honest with you. There's times that I do not want to gather. Has anybody else ever felt that? Yeah? You don't want to come to church on Sunday morning. You don't want to go into the kids' ministry that the Lord's called you to. You don't want to serve in the coffee bar. You don't want to hang out with our greeting team. I mean, I'm sure there's times to where our worship team didn't want to come and practice and get together on a Thursday night. And if I'm wrong, like tell me. There's nights that I don't want us to go into the ministry I serve in, right? Where the Lord has me, which is in student disciples. And, I play all over the place as well. But there's times I don't want to go into my disciple-making group on Wednesday nights. I don't want to gather and have all things in common. Like there's times that I just don't want to do these things. But I promise you, I would have missed out. In those moments that I woke up and I did not want to go to church, and I did not want to gather, I did not want to have all things in common, I would have missed out on something. I almost missed Haley Poindexter's baptism a couple years ago, right? I woke up in the morning and I wrestled with the Lord. It's like, Lord, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to gather today. I want to sit here and do my own thing, right? And I would have missed out on some of these things. Even in these D groups, or maybe it's even one-on-one, I don't want to meet somebody for lunch, breakfast, or dinner, or just for coffee, right? Sometimes maybe it's not for us. Maybe it's not for us to why the Lord has us in that moment, gathering, whether it's with thousands or with hundreds or, the 5 guys in the living room. Maybe it's not for us. Maybe it's for somebody else. Maybe somebody else needs the spirit that's in you, or somebody else needs what the Lord has stirring in you, right? Maybe and you never know in that moment when you get to speak life to somebody. You never know when you get to witness the signs and miracles. You never know what the Lord can do in that moment or create a new relationship. Like the Lord can do all things, right? And so not neglecting gathering with one another. And so in all of this, and I'm almost done here, I'm going to read out of John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. Is it hot in here? I think I'm sweating. And this is talking about Jesus feeding the 5,000, right? And so in this, it said, the word says there was 5,000 men. And we've learned from up here before that there more than likely was over 5,000 people in this, right? They didn't count the women and children in this time. And so looking a little further into this, they said there could have been anywhere from 15 to 18,000 people in this crowd, right? So John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great crowd of all people followed him because they saw the signs that he had performed by healing the sick. And Jesus went up to the mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for all these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than a half year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. And catch this part. Listen to this. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go amongst so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down, about 5,000 men who were there. Jesus took the loaves and gave thanks, and distributed to all those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled the 12 baskets with the pieces of the fish and barley loaves that are left over by those who had eaten. The people saw the signs Jesus had performed, and they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who has come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrawing again to the mountain by himself. I went too far. But John chapter 6, verse 1 through 14. And this is where I'm gonna wrap this up, okay? But really highlighting how the Lord provides all things, right? Like through Christ, all things are possible. In those moments to where I'm already struggling and I'm already wanting to give up on something, like lean on Jesus. Like he can get us through anything, right? Doesn't matter what the situation or what storm it is. I know we had things happening this morning, but like the Lord provide a way through these things. And so feeding 15 to 18,000 people with 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish doesn't seem realistic, right? But like through Christ, it is possible. But looking at this, like these barley loaves, these 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. So barley at that time was a sign of poverty. It was not the Wonder Bread. It wasn't the top shelf stuff, that the kids can't reach. They don't smash it up. They keep the barley loaves and the lower stuff down on bottom shelf, right? And so the 5 barley loaves being a sign of poverty and having 2 small fish. And so what I'm seeing in this is like this child come together with other believers having all things in common, right? But when we work out of this thing, all things in common, it's also not only sharing our spiritual gifts, but it's also sharing our physical things, right? I don't know how many times I have to go to my neighbor's place and borrow something. I don't know how many times I have to go and ask for help, or how many times, these guys come alongside and help me with something or loan me something. Sometimes I don't really give it back. But like in this moment, he's not worried about not being able to feed 5,000 people with this little bit, right? The only thing he's doing is giving what little bit he has. He's giving it to Jesus and trusting him with it, right? He's not worried about not being able to feed everybody. He's not worried about like this isn't going to be enough. Like all he does is takes this little bit and he hands it over to Jesus, knowing and having that childlike faith, like he can do all things, right? It's not what the Lord calls us to do, is have that childlike faith. And so looking at this, like it really like blew my mind. Like this kid has no worry. The 5 barley loaves and the 2 small fish potentially could have been all he had, right? That could have been every little bit that he had. And he still turns it over to Jesus. He's not worried about tomorrow. He's here for the now and what the Lord can do right now in all of our lives. And so the question we have is, where does your commonality come from? Does it come from the world or from the kingdom? Are we willing to gather with one another as much as possible, sharing our resources, whether they're physical and spiritual? It's gathering with one another, the believers gathering with one another and having all things in common. And like I said, there's times that I haven't wanted to gather. There's times I don't want to spend time in the Word. There's times I neglect in my home. I don't want to gather with my wife and break down the Word together. But it's like I said, what if in that moment, like it's not for us, it's for somebody else? And so one of the things we're attempting to practice now is to gather even more, right? Like not only here at the church, but gather more in our homes. To gather more, having lunches, to spending more one-on-one time with one another. And so like Michael Ferris opened up his home here a few weeks ago. It's an open invitation, right? Like you guys come hang out with us. Let's all gather together and have all things in common. Let's not all gather just on Sunday mornings, okay? Let's gather outside of the building. Let's gather outside this church. Same thing for myself. We're going to open our home up in July, right? David Fry is going to have potentially put on a fireworks show. Like that's the plan so far. From what I heard, it's going to rain all the way through the 4th of July. So maybe we'll do it in August or September, or Christmas or something, right? But for you guys, like David Fry has his own fireworks stand. So make sure y'all go buy fireworks from him. He did not pay me to say that either, by the way. But really, being devoted to one another, gathering in prayer, worship, to edify one another, to teach each other what the Lord is doing in our lives, right? Like let's not neglect gathering with one another and having all things in common. Okay? And I guess there's one other person this month at some point in time going to open their home. Like, you guys, come on, come hang out. And a lot of times we'll break bread with one another. Somebody will get a guitar and we'll start praise and worship. It's super simple, like really low level. And the only thing we do is just hang out with one another, right? I got to talk to Jim Sawyer for like 45 minutes and got to know him better at one of these. And so, like, one of the things I want to really harp on is do not neglect gathering with one another, okay? So I'm going to ask that question again. Where does your commonality come from? Does it come from the world or from the kingdom? Okay? I really want you guys to sit with that this week. Where does your commonality come from? And my wife doesn't know this yet. I didn't think to even ask her, but you're all invited to my house in July whenever we put on the fireworks show. Everybody's invited. So you guys come hang out with us. The thing we're going to have in common at that time is probably blowing stuff up. So let's have fun. We're making chicken. Y'all are? All of us. See? I didn't know that. We're having chicken. So y'all come to my house. Come to my house in July, after the 4th of July. Have some chicken. Let's blow some stuff up. July 5th. Oh, we have a date too. July 5th or 6th. Hey, y'all come both days. I don't care. Y'all come on. Y'all come hang out. I got a guitar. I don't know how to play it, but we'll figure something out, right? I got food in the freezer. We'll heat it up, okay? So you guys don't neglect gathering with one another. I'm like, come on, come hang out with us. Let's get to know one another better. I talked to a couple this morning, and I said, hey, this is on me, right? Like, this is on me. I talked to a couple this morning. I was like, hey, good morning. Welcome to Harrah Church. How long have y'all been coming to Harrah Church? You know what they said? A year. They said a year. I'm glad you thought that was funny because I thought it was funny too. I'm like, what am I doing? What am I even doing? Okay. All right. I will not keep going on and on. So you guys come hang out with us. July 6th, we're going to be having chicken and blowing some stuff up, okay? I love you guys.